Spade back here with you, High Noon Leatherworks, for another leather adventure. And today I'm going to do a project using some scrap leather, but it's something that you can use. You can make them custom size, you can make them custom designed, and they could come in very useful, and they could really brighten up your projects. So come on in and let's get started. All right, so I've got a little store-bought floral concho here, leather concho, and I've got this so I can use it as a pattern for my slots. You can do it however you want. You don't have to use one of these if you don't want to. You could just measure or center it however you want. But here's a couple of different designs, different sizes. You can see the floral design on this one is larger than this one. But you could take these, you do them different sizes, then you can lay them on top of one another, put your blood knot through there, and you end up with a really sharp concho. So it just depends on what kind of colors you want, what size you want. You can make these custom size or custom design however you want to. So what I've done is I've pulled out some different colors and thicknesses of scrap leather that I had in my bin. The first one I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and do a pre-dyed. We're going to do black and a light colored beige or tan. And you can use anything round that you want as a pattern. This is those little cups that you get off of like liquid medicine or whatever, cough syrup, so on. And I just hang on to these because they're really handy for putting dye in or using them for this as a pattern, because you've got a smaller circle here and a larger circle on this end. Or I also keep them on my workbench as a little trash holder so I can pick up all my little spoils that come out of my punches and so on and throw them in there. Then when it gets full, I empty it, so I don't have to have a trash can right under my feet or go across the room to empty my trash can or empty my trash. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start out with the large end on the black. Now, trial and error in the past, what I've found is it's much easier if I flip this over to the side that you're not going to see and leave my finished side down. And what that does is that allows me to draw, and this ink will show up even on this black pre-dyed leather. And then I draw my circle using my template from this little cup around. And I don't know whether that'll show up on, yeah, it shows up on camera. So you can see my circle template that I just drew. So the ink shows up. Then what I do is I pick a rounded punch, whatever size that I want to use. Today I'm using a 10 and a 5. So let me show you how they compare to one another. They're about, obviously the 10's twice as big, I'm going to assume, by the number as the 5. So I'm going to start out with the black and the 10, and then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start on the outside of that circle, and it doesn't matter where I start, and I'm going to put these 2 points, the open end of the punch, on the outside of that circle. So that's how I'm going to start. Then I'll punch that, and I'm using my poly cutting board as my base, and I'll have my first time, because these are different thicknesses, give me an idea how hard I have to hit that, or maybe how many times I have to hit it to get through. So that gives me an idea. Now I can move right, put my point of my opening right on the point of the first, and I'm moving right to left. You can move left to right however you want. And go to the next one. Now I'm starting to get the hang of how hard I have to hit it to get through that. And then I just keep working my way around that circle. Now, in order to end up with a full half circle at the end to where it matches the one I started, that's kind of a trial and error thing also. So what I've done is I've done some practice ones, and this larger end of this cup with that 10 rounded punch comes out even. So it'll end evenly. You might have to measure that out and figure that out mathematically. And then the smaller end of this cup with the 5 rounded punch comes out even. So it's just a trial and error thing. You don't want to end up with having to punch half of a circle. That's not going to make it look right. So again, you may have to measure, or you may have to just do a trial and error sample with your punch and your circle to find out what your pattern's going to be. Alright, so I go around the whole entire circle, and then I pop out my floral concho. So there's my black one. You can see it ended up symmetrical all the way around. I didn't end up with any funny half circle or anything on one end. Now another thing too, if you pull this off and you pop it out of there, sometimes you'll end up with little frizzy pieces, or that stick out just because you didn't go all the way through or something. So when you pop it out, I just take a lighter and very quickly go around it. I don't want to burn it. I just want to go around it and let it singe all those little leather hairs or pieces that are sticking out real quick, and it makes it real nice and sharp. Gets rid of anything that's frayed out. So there's my first one. Now I'm going to take my tan piece, and it's got a little bend in it. I'm going to turn it the other way. Use my small end. Again, flip this over to the rough side. Finish side down. And let's go ahead and do a circle with that small diameter. And again, you're not going to see that side because it's going to be down when you use it as a concho. So that's not a problem. let's go ahead and take the number 5, the smaller one, and we're going to do the same thing. This one's going to go through there pretty easily. Again, I'm going to go left to right and just put it end to end as I go around, just like if I was stamping a border or something. Just make sure you stay on that circle. This is half the width of the 10 that I used on the first one, so you're not putting the mass through the leather, and this leather is a little softer, so I don't have to hit near as hard to go all the way through. And the key is, again, is to make sure that you're putting that right next to the last semi-circle hole that you punched. So you want to touch those points together. Work your way around. Now, obviously, if you want to, you can order these any size you want, but the thing is, you're not going to get them in the color that you want. So, like I said, I've got all this colored scrap laying around, so if I just want one or two, it makes it much easier for me to go through and make my own. So let's end up here at the last one. Let's pop that out. You can see on that last one right there, it's going to want to fray out a little bit. That's what I was talking about earlier. Let's see if you can see that. Right there, see the little frays sticking out? Now watch, if I take my lighter and just run across there real quick, I'm not trying to burn the edge, I'm just trying to get those frays wrinkled up to where they just disappear. And they're gone. So I've got a nice sharp edge all the way around. You can see my circle on the back where I marked it with a pen. Doesn't matter, you're not going to see that. So let's put that on top of our black, and you can see I've got a different floral pattern on each one. The black being the larger, the number 10, the tan being the smaller, the number 5. Then what I can do is, let's just take the tan one, let's put our store-bought Concho on top of that, and I'm just gonna make an ink mark where those slots are. Take my slotted punch, and I should have turned that over so I don't have any ink marks showing. Let's see how this turns out. Oh yeah, ink mark disappears anyway. But I should have turned it over to make sure. So there's my slotted Concho, small one. There's the store-bought. You can compare the two. Now all I have to do is center this Concho onto my black, larger Concho, and I could just use that same slot that I just put in there in the top one, transfer it to the bottom one, move that out of the way, and finish the two slots in the black. So now those will perfectly match up. As you can see, hopefully that'll go back through, yeah, to the white. You can see it back here. And I've got a perfectly matched set of a smaller and larger concho. So I get a real nice tan on top of that black. It really pops. And then probably what I would do is use some black to make my blood knot and hang down. And that would really contrast, make it sharp. So there's a quick way to do some custom conchos, leather conchos. Here's some veg tan. It's about, I'd say 9 or 10 ounce. You can see it's the reason I cut this out. It's kind of got a weird look to it. Some of it's darker than the other. Now, just by changing up your punch, let's do this. Let's do a small one again. Do the small end. Remember, I'm putting my line on the unfinished raw side of the leather. There's my circle. Now you can do the same thing, but just turn your punch over. Make sure that you're square with the outside, and then make sure that you match as you go around. So you might want to turn that to where you can see that you're on the line and that you're matching up. So you're doing it just the opposite of how we just did the first one. So we're still going by the round line that we used for our pattern, but we turned our punch, our half circle punch, 180 degrees. And what that's going to do is give us a totally different effect. As we move around that circle. Instead of a floral look with the rounded on the outside, it should give us more of a little sunburst look. Again, working my way around. Pop those out, and we could do the same thing with this, with the lighters we did on the other side. We'll just pull those out. And you can see this one has a lot of strings and strands on it. That's okay. You just go around and hit those with your lighter. Now take care of those and hit them with your finger, and they'll just fall right off where they've burnt down. This is a little rougher on the back than these other two that I used, so it's a little stringier, but still not too bad. So there we end up with, by turning that over, we end up with like a sunburst concho instead of the floret. So just a little bit different technique to get a different look. Whatever you'd want to do, you could do all kinds of stuff to get a different edge on the outside, and again, different sized conchos. So there's a set of custom, two sets actually. The one I did before started the video, and then the one during the video. Alright, so there's something quick, simple, and easy that you can do to do some custom conchos with some scrap leather. Again, you could do them any size, any design that you want to on the outside. You can come up with your own punch or whatever. So you can use those on specialty projects and custom stuff, make it look real sharp. So I appreciate you coming along, appreciate you watching, and come back next week, check out our next video. And as I always say, please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.